It's important that you all should know I make no claims to be something that what my advice is going to be worth anything. Anyone should do their own work. And I also have had history since 1975, a number of major mistakes as a result of which I've had considerable volatility in my results. And so therefore, once again, do your own work. A major factor in an important change in where we think the speculative opportunities are the greatest is what has happened by the election of the new Prime Minister of Japan. The most important thing that she has done that are revving up our speculative emotions is that unexpectedly, rather than being careful in how much spending she does in Japan, she has said we're going to be pumping more money, we're going to be borrowing more money to raise the growth in the economy. Even though Japanese inflation is the highest it's been for decades at 3%, she's taken that position. So the result of that, in my opinion, is that the odds of a significant further increase in the yield of the 10-year JGB, which has moved from almost zero 2 or 3 years ago, almost to 1.9%, I think could go up significantly from there. Why? Well, as I just mentioned, inflation in Japan itself is already higher, 3%. And if we remember what Volcker had to do in the United States to bring inflation down by cutting the growth in money supply, you first had to see interest rates go much higher than the rate of inflation. So if, and I'm sure eventually, there will have to be in Japan a change in their financial structure to say, look, we have to bring interest rates down, and the only way we can do that with a paper currency, like all our currencies are, is by reducing the growth rate in the money supply to less than what the growth in the economy has been. And that will take years. It took years for Volcker to do that. But in the meantime, I think that you could well see, even if Japanese inflation stays at no higher than 3%, in order to reduce inflation down, growth in the money supply would have to be cut. And probably the government deficit, which is huge in Japan, the greatest of any country in terms of over twice the GDP in Japan, is owed by the government in terms of the treasury bonds. So therefore, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a move from close to 2% in the 10-year JGB to 4, 5, 6%. So it's a factor that I think is very speculatively opportune to consider shorting the Japanese 10-year JGB. And always what I focus on is putting in a buy stop at a reasonable amount so that if things go the other way and you have to get out automatically, it's not going to kill you. One of the big reasons why I'm so positive that Japanese yields will go up is what's called the carry trade. Because for decades, literally, people who have the ability to borrow large amounts of money will borrow it in Japan because the interest rate they pay very, very often was less than 1%, and they then would take that money, switch it to other currencies such as the US dollar, where the interest rates that they could get for, again, very safe securities such as treasury bonds or treasury bills would be significantly higher, and that spread that they would make, kind of an arbitrage, you might say, right, would be for a number of financial institutions, hedge funds, and others, a major factor on why they were able to make money. But now that has switched the other way, and it's becoming one of the reasons are going up why Japanese yields and Japanese bonds are going down. Another major factor, which may be the most important, is that the Japanese insurance industry has a situation where they have owned enormous numbers of these Japanese bonds. And the prospect of those bonds going down as yields go up could be a major concern to the insurance companies. And so, unlike the last recent decades, the insurance companies in Japan, which have traditionally been major buyers of Japanese bonds, are no longer in that position. So you put those factors together, and we feel for a speculative interest, consider, even for those of you who have not tried the commodity markets, consider shorting the JGB, and we will see what happens. I hope that you enjoy our videos, and please press like. It'll help us a lot. If you want a copy of my book, The Speculator's Mosaic, you can find that on Amazon.